Hi, my name is Laura Faria. I am a security sales engineer at Cisco, and this is a mini series on how to configure Cisco Secure Network Analytics. We've already set up 4 different VMs, one for the central management, one for the data store, one for the flow collector, and one for the flow sensor. We've used the application tool to communicate all of these devices together, and we've initialized the data store. This is part 4, which we are going to configure that all of these separate VMs are in communication with each other, that flow sensor data is going from the right place, and we are also going to configure the DNS and the NTP settings. Okay, thank you. Let's get started. So as I mentioned, here we have the central management, the data store, the flow collector, and the flow sensor already configured. And now we are going to do a little more configuration and such as enabling the SSH on all of my devices, as well as making sure that the devices are correctly communicating with one another before we move on. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go into the management controller or management console and edit the application, hit the 3 dots under actions, and then hit edit application configuration. So the next thing I'm going to do is I've already enabled SSH on this device in one of the previous videos, but now I want to enable the global threats. So I am going to go into the external, scroll down to, go into my general tab, and then scroll down to external services. There we go. External services. And we can see the first listed item is enable global threats. If I hover over, it gives me a little more information about, making sure that um, the that you don't enable global threats on flow collectors. And so we want to make sure we don't do that. And I'm going to go ahead and enable it on my configuration manager. Now, as soon as I hit enable, I must also hit apply settings, the blue button up here. And it's going to give me a pop-up screen, which allows me to verify my changes that are about to take place. And I'm going to hit apply changes. And then the configuration changes pending status lights up. And so we have to give this a few minutes before the appliance is connected and back up. Okay, next we're going to enable SSH on the flow sensor. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. Okay, and my flow sensor is down here. So under actions, the little 3 buttons, edit appliance configurations. And just as we did before, we're going to scroll down to SSH and enable SSH. And we are going to enable root SSH access as well. And then I'm going to hit apply settings. Okay, the configuration window lets us know which changes are going to take place, and I'm going to hit apply changes. And now I'm brought back to the inventory where I see that the flow sensor has changes pending. Okay, next I'm going to enable SSH on the data node. So my data node or my data store is this one. So under actions, the 3 buttons, edit appliance configuration, and I'm going to scroll down to SSH, enable SSH here, and enable root SSH access as well and hit apply settings. It's going to ask me if these settings are or what I want to change. And I'm going to hit yes, apply settings. Now we can see that the data store is also pending changes. Okay, finally, we're going to enable SSH on the flow collector. So the flow collector is here, and I'm under actions, those little buttons, edit application configuration, scroll down to enable SSH, enable root SSH access, and apply settings, making sure that these are the changes that are going to take place. Yes, I approve, apply the changes. And now the flow collector is pending changes. And we can see that both the data store and the flow sensor those changes have already taken place. Okay. Under the flow collector, I also want to make sure that so I can't edit it while the changes are taking place. So I need to maybe give this a second. Under the flow collector, we also want to make sure that we enable the threat analytics on that one as well. So give this a few seconds. Okay, so under the flow collector, edit appliance configuration under general. I want to make sure that the external services, global threat alerts are enabled, and I'm going to hit apply. Okay, and the changes are pending. Excellent. By default, both SSH and root SSH are disabled on new appliances, and they must be enabled in order to access them via SSH. Okay, so now I want to verify that the global threats is enabled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Security Insights dashboard. So under, or I have it up here. I could have gone under dashboard and network security and gone to my Security Insights dashboard. And here I can see that there's been a new widget called Global Threat Alerts, which was not there previously. It's taken a second to load. Just give it one second to load. So it's okay that this global threat widget hasn't loaded. It might need a single data point before it's able to graph anything. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the DNS verification and the NTP verification, and we'll come back to see if this loads. Okay, let's move on to DNS verification. So it's important to verify that the correct DNS settings are being utilized, because the Secure Network Analytics Manager, it must perform DNS resolution for various documents. And so, such as the licensing for the threat feeds. And so it's important that the verification of the DNS servers talking to the right VMs is made. So I'm going to go into my Secure Network Analytics Central Management, and look for the devices. The global settings, central management. Under the management console, I'm going to go ahead and hit view application statistics. And I can see the administrator homepage. And I'm going to hit configuration on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to go down to naming and DNS. Okay, so then I'm looking for the network host and IP lookup. I'm going to go ahead and test 198.19.20.10. And it's retrieving the DNS information. And it's letting me know that this is the AD1. So the resolution for that is the Active Directory 1 domain for that IP address. So that looks like it's working correctly. Okay, so now we can close this tab and move on to the NTP verification. The NTP is crucial because the alarms that are raised in Secure Network Analytics will not be correct or will not be timed correctly. And so there might be a misalignment into how different VMs are processing different events. And so we want to make sure that the NTP server is configured correctly. And so just because we already, as part of the configuration, we gave an NTP address, but it doesn't mean that it's reading correctly, right? So we want to make sure we can look into it. So let's go into my PuTTY and we'll go into the management console. Okay. Looks like I'm in. And then I'm going to hit HW clock show command. And it's given me my timestamp. Now I'm going to see the time on the server. So let's go with chronic NTP data. Okay, and finally we're gonna hit chronic tracking in order to display the status of the synchronization. And we're looking at the system time. So 0, 0, what is that? 5 decimal places, 9, slow of NTP time. Which I would say it's pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of here, cancel out of there. And finally, I'm going to go and do my flow sensor configuration. So I'm back in my central management, and I'm going to locate the flow sensor and go into my actions and edit or view application statistics. Okay, I'm going to have to log in using my admin username and password. And I'm letting me know that there's been 0 failed attempts since my last login. Thank you. Now I should see the flow sensor web administration page. I'm going to want to go into my configuration menu. So on the left hand side, the wrench configuration. And under configuration, we're going to choose the NetFlow collectors. Okay, I just want to verify that that IP address matches my flow collector and the right port, 2055. Now I want to make sure I'm in, which that all makes sense. So I'm going to go back to my configuration, go into my advanced settings. And my export packet payload is checked off. My export application identification is checked off. Let's go ahead and include IPv6. Include the headers, the HTTPS headers, include the HTTP data. This is all really good information for what we are including in the flow logs. And I'm going to increase the amount of bytes to 256 for the request path. And make sure that decapsulation in Geneva is not enabled. X44 not enabled. Enable ETA processing. Let's go ahead and check that off. Okay. Double check that all my settings look good and hit apply. There's actually a lot of really good information you can get now out of the header. And so we can actually predict which applications are being transmitted just by looking at the header. And so Cisco has the ability to look at the first few packets in a header and try to identify whether it's malicious, whether it's a known application. And so I can see why we want to make sure that we enable a lot of these settings. So it looks like my settings have been applied. And now this is it. That is the end of the flow sensor configuration. We can now close this page. And finally, we want to make sure that the telemetry broker is configured. And so the telemetry broker, as the name states, it's the target of where the NetFlow and the system log traffic are going to meet. And we're going to be forwarding this data to all the systems that need to consume this information. So all UDP traffic will be brokered to different connectors. So if you have a SIM, this is especially helpful for that. So we're going to go ahead and configure this and make sure this is configured correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my Appliances tab and my Cisco Telemetry Broker Management. Like I said, go ahead and approve this because it's a known IP address. It's just a self-signed certificate. And I'm going to go ahead and log in to here. Okay. This is an add-on feature to the license set. So this is an additional cost, but it does come helpful if you have, like I said, the need to broker packets to different entities. So let's go into our destinations and add a new destination, a UDP destination. Okay, let's call it the SNA flow collector, and we're going to enter our flow connector IP address on here. And the port that we've been using is 2055 for that communication. All right. Let's go ahead and hit OK. So there's a minimum of one rule to send telemetry data to this destination. So let's go ahead and add a rule. Add rule on port 2555. And go ahead and hit save. Okay, there's our one rule, nice and simple. Let's go ahead and hit add destination. Let's add our manager. And our manager IP address is 198.19.20.136 in port 514. Gonna hit OK. Now I have two destinations. I also need a rule for that one, so I'm gonna make sure I add that port. The receiving port is 514, and I'm gonna hit save. All right, we can. It might take a few minutes for this traffic to start populating. So let's just see if we can start seeing some traffic. Not yet. Okay. But that's it. I'll pop back into the screen in a little bit and show traffic on the next video. But that's it. That concludes our video on how to make sure that SSH has been enabled on all our devices. We've looked at the DNS servers and made sure that the configuration was done correctly. We looked at the NTP servers to make sure that the appliances are able to reach NTP. We've looked at the flow sensor advanced settings and make sure that we configure that correctly. And then finally, we configured the Cisco Telemetry Broker in order so that both the management console and the flow collector are seeing logs. In the next video of this mini-series, we're going to be adding an additional SNA manager, and we're going to be configuring that manager so that we have two centralized managements Okay, thank you. I hope to see you in the next one.